Hey everybody, it is Wednesday night, and as you all know, it is the happy hump day happy hour with Dennis in the Know, your backstage pass to all the trends and politics in dentistry. I'm Chad Duplantis. This is my great friend, Dr. Jennifer Bell, and we are here to share with you some exciting news, and we've got an amazing guest tonight. So super excited about tonight's show. JB, tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your world.
Actually pretty calm right now. We're gearing up for another big travel run. So there's a lot of things happening. I'm in Nashville this weekend. And then actually we're doing our family vacation next week in Colorado. So we're all getting ready. Probably the most distressful thing that's happened to me in the last 7 days is I got poison oak.
Oh,
and I've had it. I know I haven't had poison oak in, I don't know, 20 years maybe, but
what finger was that on?
I'm about to show you.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Anywho, so I'm on the mend, but was pretty miserable for a period of time. Luckily, it didn't do like the last time where it shut my eyes closed, and it was super, super cool for a while. So that's about it. We're just sort of in the middle of summer. The kids are starting to realize school's coming up soon, and so they're soaking up all the last little bits. My kids have been working with me for the last couple of weeks in the office. Ben is now my oldest son. He's an expert at making Essex retainers and occlusal guards, and he's helping me 3D print, and we're starting to onboard some fun new technology. So who knows? Maybe we have a future CDT doing an apprenticeship in my office. So tell me about your vacation. How was it?
Hey, first off, that's awesome. Those were some of my best times with Austin in the office. He still works very part-time. I mean, he's busy, he's got girlfriend now and college and other things to do, but him printing and doing all the technology stuff in my office is awesome. He comes up and helps. So I love those times. We were on vacation last week. We went to Florida to our usual stomping grounds. It was very, very much needed. I think we talked about my business partner had been out for several weeks with knee surgery, and prior to that, a previous surgery. And so it's just been a really stressful few months. I mean, I always compare the busy times to like playing bumper pool. Like you go one way and you bounce the other way,
Exactly.
and you bounce the other way. It was like that for like 10 weeks straight. So a very, very much needed, much welcome vacation.
Good.
We're back. School starts next week.
Is your partner back full time now?
He is back full time, and he's actually doing great. I mean, he really is.
That's awesome.
He's in a lot of pain, but he's getting around. And it's funny, you can kind of see like the first few days he was there and his personality's always there, but now his personality's really there. And that's what matters the most. He's not doing as much dentistry, but he's really starting to pick it up, and it's really good to have him back. I tell you, it's really nice just to have a little bit more testosterone in the office.
That's really funny you say that, because so it's been in my practice, it's a two female owner practice, all female support staff. Yeah. We have our first male associate, and you wouldn't believe how many conversations. You have a male here? A male in your office? I'm like, actually, it's a pretty great balance. Like, it's starting to bring some neutralization to the overall estrogen of this place.
We've got some awesome ladies that work for us. We've never had a male apply for a position in our office. I'm not against it, but having another male doctor in there, I mean, when you're there by yourself with all these ladies, man, I mean, you listen to stories that you don't need to talk about, especially in the lunchroom. You go grab your lunch and get the hell out.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of nice to actually go in there and be like, man, it's so good to talk to you. I have normal conversations, but so it's been really, really good. And then next week, you're going to Nashville this weekend, and I'm going to Nashville in a week and a half to drop the baby boy off.
The baby boy.
Really, really.
You want me to go bug his dorm room while I'm up there? I can run some cameras.
It's 108 years old. I don't think you're going to find an outlet for a camera in there. But yeah, he's excited. So we're excited for him in his future. So that's about it.
That's really cool. I know you guys are it's going to be a tough week, but he's going to be super excited, and I know he's going to be really successful there. So that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it at home because I mentioned it. Ellen's like, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't
Yeah.
talk about it. My initial plan was to rent a car and drive up there and then fly back. She says, why are we doing that? And I said, because 2 hours in the plane with you crying is going to be a hell of a lot better than 10 and a half hours in the car with you crying. I said, so I want to get it in, get it out, be done with it, and then we'll handle it.
How did you handle that comment?
Do what?
How did you handle that comment? That was super supportive comment that you dropped on her.
Well, it didn't work because we're driving up there and then we're driving back in 10 and a half hours.
So you're going to enjoy all 10 hours of that.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be fun. So we're excited for him and his future. But anyway.
You want to tell us a little bit about the show tonight?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about our guest because you've been doing Invisalign for a really long time. I've been doing Invisalign. I kind of did things in reverse order. I bought the iTero and then I was like, well, hell, I better start doing Invisalign. So I've been doing Invisalign for about 4 years. I'm still learning and I'm really excited about our guest because as soon as I have time, I'm going to go to one of his courses. But
I was just thinking, sounds like you're ready for a ReEngage.
Yeah, and as I've been reading up on him, I'm definitely joining the American Academy of Clear Aligners. So I'm super excited about that. But Dr. David Galler is with us. And I think that anybody who is thinking about Invisalign therapy needs to hear from Dr. Galler. One of the most impressive quotes that I read is that Dr. Galler and the Gallerites, how cool is that? The Gallerites. What if I had the Duplantites?
It doesn't Duplantites. Yeah.
Duplantites or the Bellites.
The Bellites.
Yeah, I mean, when people see us coming together, they call us the Duplantite. But anyways, the Gallerites are responsible for 20% of the North American GP Invisalign startups. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So really excited about Dr. Galler. But anyhow, I know you got some news for us, and I'll introduce Dr. Galler in a minute. But give us what you got.
Well, let's talk a little bit. So we didn't get to talk much about news last week, right? So we have a few things to catch up on. We'll talk politics first. There's a push right now and a bill being introduced about adult Medicaid being mandated for all states. So I think that's something to watch. Right now, adult Medicaid is a choice state by state. So some states, I know North Carolina offers adult Medicaid, but other states do not. And so there's a bill that's now been introduced to push forward for adult Medicaid dental coverage. So certainly that's something we'll be on the watch for, right in line with Medicare as well. I think there's several programs and bills being introduced to look at dental coverage for all. And so, these are coming through Medicare, and Medicaid hits a large portion of the population. So that's certainly something that we're going to keep an eye on. It's just been introduced, so it doesn't have a ton of traction quite yet. Not a lot to report, still more in the discovery phase. I thought there was
wait a second. Hold on. I'm sorry. I need to ask a question regarding that. So when you talk about that, are you talking about states are required to offer that as a plan for the residents, citizens of that state?
My understanding would be
dentists will be required to accept it.
No, and that's not how it works in North Carolina. So if you're a Medicaid provider, you see in North Carolina, you see adults and children because North Carolina dental Medicaid covers some portion of adults, some portion of children.
Gotcha.
And so if you're in that network and you provide care to the Medicaid population, then you see both. Right now, though, it is state choice. So states can choose if they're going to offer adult and pediatric or just pediatric. And so there's the push to offer. And I would assume that benefit would then be extended to any adult who's also is a recipient of Medicaid medical benefit. So
gotcha. Yeah, I've never really been a provider, so I just wanted to clarify that. I know a lot of pediatric dentists are, but
absolutely.
Okay, carry on. Next.
So the other interesting thing that came up, and I think as employers, this is something we certainly need to watch. There is some push now from the Civil Rights Protection Agency to look at coverage as a disability for long-term COVID effects for folks who've had COVID. And why does this impact us as dentists? Well, one, I guess it would impact you as a dentist if you've had COVID. But the second thing would be, it'll be interesting to see how employment law gets affected by this. You know, we employ folks who probably have had COVID. If they start to report long-term COVID effects, does that then mean that they fall into a protective class, which means you have to provide employment for longer periods of time? You can't terminate them because of absences or other issues. So I think this is definitely something we have to keep an eye on as employers of lots of folks, as an industry. You know, anytime HR law has these types of impacts on protecting classes of citizens who we likely are hiring, we just have to be really well versed and protect our practice and our liability should these issues arise. So, you know, I think it's something to monitor. It's not an official proclamation yet, but this is not a bill. So much like CDC and OSHA and these other organizational groups within the federal government, they have the ability to make these, as best I can understand from what I'm reading, they have the ability to make these classifications and protection classes on their own without it having to go through a bill or Congress. So anyway, you know, something that I think we probably need to keep an eye out on.
I think there's a lot of things we need to keep an eye out on, and a lot of unknown. I think we've kind of created a monster. I know that, you know, and I'm not trying to get political by any means. I get it. But COVID has totally opened a lot of avenues for lawsuits, for HR issues, yep, for this, for that. But, you know, the facts are, I think so many of us are struggling just to get people in the freaking office to actually work. Yep. That's the problem that we have. Yep. You know, I mean, we just have to get people in there to work, and it's tough. So
which then affects your discernment. And, you know, I think, you know, we just have to continue to sort of keep our eye on the long-term ball, if you will. And I think it's prudent to say it would feel like there's a big uptick. I think it's interesting to note that in the last 7-10 days, the AMA came out pretty hard on the vaccine mandate and really pushing for all healthcare providers to be vaccinated. The ADA took a slightly lighter lean into that and said that they recognize that all healthcare providers should be vaccinated. They haven't gone as far as moving towards the mandate. And the CDC is still not saying that vaccinations are mandated in any profession and in any arena currently. But, you know, that's all subject to change. And I think I've certainly seen an uptick again in our community of COVID active cases. And we're certainly seeing it starting to stew around again. So who knows? Mask mandates are coming back in North Carolina. Mask mandates are in our schools again for 21, 22.
Really? Not here. Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, there's just still a lot that we're all, I think, processing. And as much as we're ready to heal and move on, seems like we might not be quite there yet. So,
yeah, it's certainly a scary time. And I think that I would really love to get an expert on the vaccine on the show, because yeah, I think there's so much to it. I mean, without getting political once again, I mean, crap, we had 20,000 cases yesterday.
Yeah. And some portion of those are vaccinated.
Some portion is, yeah. And so
we just have to understand, you know, I think the baseline acknowledgement of what we understand may or may not be 100% factual. And so then as humans who are trying to protect their loved ones or their, you know, friends and family, if we're operating under the guise that the vaccine will protect you and keep you safe and not allow you to spread it, you know, we just need to have open and honest information about, you know, how we protect our loved ones that we're around. Because I know that at the end of the day, that's what we're most concerned about. As clinicians, we want to protect our patients, our staff, and our family members, our elderly folks who are coming to us, but also ones we're related to. And we just want open and honest information so that we can ensure that that's happening.
And I read earlier today, speaking of the peak and the vaccine and everything like that, I can't remember where it was, maybe Israel, but there was a deal today where one of the lead health officials in one of the foreign countries, and I'm going to say Israel, don't quote me on that, or don't hold me to that, but they said that this new variant that's out and this new surge is shorter lived. And, and I just hope and pray that that's the case, because I don't know how many more of these surges we can stand. So enough of that. I'm sick of talking about COVID. Let's have a guest.
Agreed. Hey, can I tell you one other interesting piece of news? It's not political at all, but it is interesting.
Damn it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this doesn't directly relate to our guest because he has nothing to do with them, but it does relate to clear aligner therapy. It did hit the news last week or was it early this week, that 3 employees at the Smile Direct Club facility in Nashville, where I'm going, were shot. No one died that I can find on the internet currently. Sounds like it probably was somebody knew somebody. But that's how things all come back to dentistry. Even something, the seemingly far off and away was at a clear aligner DIY company. So see, there you go.
So here's where I'm going to go with that. Here you go. You just said that you're going to Nashville to the Smile Direct facility. That's what I took out of that.
That is not what I said.
No, you said at Nashville at the Smile Direct facility, which is where I'm going next week. And I was about to say, why the hell are you going to Nashville?
No, I'm not going there. Do you know why I'm going to Nashville?
I want to know.
So you remember Stephen Cook, who was on our Peloton challenge when we did.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's butt. He's like super crazy fast on the Peloton.
Yeah.
It's his 40th birthday. So we're going to Nashville to celebrate.
Freaking young. Where are y'all staying?
We've rented a couple duplex apartments because there's about 9 couples going. So, all
right, I need the scoop on it when you get back. But anyways, enough.
You got it. I'm hoping I meet someone famous. That's my whole goal.
I'll tell you how to do that. Hey, let's introduce our guest.
You got it.
All right, I'm going to let you take it away and introduce this gentleman because you know him very well.
Gosh, I mean, I've known of him and known his courses for a long time. I'm lucky enough now to be a part of his local study club here in Raleigh. So David Galler and I met many moons ago when I brought him here to North Carolina to speak for the AGD conference, and really was intrigued with his IPR techniques and systems. And I think as clear aligner providers, that's something that continues to plague us and give us the most angst. That and attachment fall offs are like the 2 things that you just are the bane of your existence. And so he had a really great systematic approach, and being a COIS clinician, I love systems, I love always. And so he really had a really nice dial in on that. And so he's a fantastic educator. He really has revolutionized, I think, the clear aligner education arena. It's something that I have wanted to see for a really long time as a provider, was other clinicians getting up and telling us how to be successful and how to treat patients well and effectively. And I think David is super dialed into that. And he does it in a way that's incredibly enjoyable and entertaining at the same time.
You had me at IPR.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Telling you.
You had me at IPR. David, welcome.
Some really great facts. He is the top Invisalign provider in the country, right?
I just want to start off by saying that I was on Tuesday morning, I was nowhere near Nashville or Memphis, and I was in Orlando. There are witnesses there. I don't know why that news story preceded my coming on the show, but I just want to say that I know nothing of it and I have no part in it at all.
I think going on record was important.
Yes, I just want to start this. I am the Invisalign guy, but I just want to make that very clear. I don't know how many Facebook people you have on, but I was in the Orlando area on Tuesday morning, so witnesses and all.
So obviously, David is a large Invisalign provider, and he has educated many GPs across the country who, as Chad referred to, the Gallerites, are loyal followers of his work.
So cool.
Very cool.
You know, people say that we're like a cult. The Gallerites. My name is Galler. It's very biblical to call themselves Gallerites. They call themselves a cult. People from the outside accuse us of being a cult, kind of all march in step together. We do IPR the same way. We do attachments the same way. We start cases the same way. We all use the iTero the same way. We buy iTeros in bulk the same way. And I just want to go on record, to say that we are 100% a cult. Okay, it absolutely is. We are. We have a dynamic leader. We have a good nickname. we are very excited. Here's the thing about cults. The people in cults are actually very happy. They're living their best life. It's their family members that have a problem with it. But there's nothing really wrong with a cult, especially if you have a good group of dental cult. But yeah,
as long as there's no Kool-Aid at the next study club,
there's so much Kool-Aid.
I'm all in.
By the time I'm done with Chad, he's going to be scanning every patient who walks through the door.
Exactly.
Let's go off topic for just a second. You speak of cults. You want to know whose teeth I scanned last week?
Yeah.
JB, you're too young for this. David Koresh.
Wow, David Koresh.
Oh. So my business partner he's dead. My business partner was on the discovery and disaster response team for Mount Carmel, and he has the cast that they identified David Koresh's body on. So I scanned and printed David Koresh's models with the extracted tooth that they did DNA on. And I sent him over to Texas. Well, I can't say this, but I'm going to call it Baylor College of Dentistry's orthodontic program, which is now part of the Texas University system. But yeah, I sent him over to the head of ortho over there. So yeah,
that's
really cool.
Nuts.
Now you can have a new dental industry kind of brewing here.
Yeah.
Forensic iTero scanning.
iTero scans of the deceased, the famous and deceased.
Yes.
We could open up a museum. That would be cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you do.
So carry on. Sorry, I thought that was just really cool, useless information.
Why isn't that a part of the news in this program? That would have been my lead story if I was running this show. David Koresh's remains have been scanned.
Yes.
I'm kind of a big deal, but I didn't want to really share that with you,
Gallery. It's now a part of Align's comprehensive record. Patient database.
We're making Invisalign. If he comes back from the dead, cult leaders come back. So
my assistant says, "What should we label this as?" I go, "Label it as David Koresh. We're in. Let's do it." Yeah.
God. Cool. That's awesome, actually.
Well, Dave, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. And I have to say, now I get to kind of hang out with you at least a couple times a year. We have a study club here in Raleigh now for the AACA, which we'll talk a little bit about, which has actually been a fantastic opportunity. One, because it's nice to be around folks who are struggling in the same trenches that you're in. But honestly, coming out of COVID, it's just been nice to be around folks and sharing stories and camaraderie and professionalism amongst one another. So for that, I'm super grateful that you have put that together and given us an outlet, maybe even a little ahead of where other groups have gone. So.
Yeah, the AACA, we're really doctor run. It's really just groups of doctors. There isn't a giant bureaucratic branch to it. Everybody in the AACA is just a dentist with a brick and mortar store who's just kind of putting their resources together to create a better life for dentists. And, really back in December, even before people started vaccinating, we saw the dental stress and anxiety level and burnout happening. Dentists were going hard, no conventions, no PDC, no ADA, no Yankee Dental, no Chicago Midwinter, no New York, where I'm from. That's a big part of education, learning, networking, and you wipe that all out, and dentists were really burnt out. So the AACA saw an opportunity. The COI study clubs were running, but they were late to the virtual game to figure it out. Seattle study clubs, I don't really think have their best days behind them. And the AACA saw an opportunity to open up just homegrown study clubs. They're not fancy. They're just local people getting together. There's some food, 2 hours CE. Throw together topics, fly in some speakers. Sometimes it's Invisalign reviews. Sometimes it's outside Invisalign's purview or auxiliary products and ideas and concepts. We have about 14 of them going now in the country. We're hoping to get to about 20 by the end of the year. there aren't really many requirements. Anybody could attend, whether you're an AACA member or not. They're all listed up on the AACA website. If somebody wants to start one, we have a pretty good cookie cutter recipe. I think it's important for dentists to meet once a month. I'm a big proponent. Jen, you know this. I'm a huge proponent of dentists being dentists' best friends. I'm a third generation dentist, and I've always been taught hate thy peer, hate thy neighbor. See thy neighbor's ad in the paper and rip it up and get angry for the rest of the day. And the most important, I teach Invisalign, but the most important thing I want to be remembered for is that dentists should be helpful and, you know, responsible to other dentists. There's so many teeth to go around. Every trick I learn, every nuance I create, I rapidly share with everyone for free right away. There are no tricks I hold out. And, you know, that's a thought process that's starting to spread through dentistry, and the results are really, really tremendous. People are just get a trick, teach it, go.
Well, I hate to tell you, the secret is they're the most successful.
Yeah.
The hate does not get you to the level of success. And I say this about the specialists that I work with, the ones that are bar none more successful and are quite phenomenal at their jobs are teaching GPs how to do basic procedures that they can do in their office so that they're not being referred to there. So they can do the bigger stuff, the more complicated stuff. And then there's this fantastic relationship that starts to develop and everybody's working really well together. Those are the ones that are taking those next leaps professionally, and their practices are never hungry for referrals. And so it's a much longer range view of how we work together and how we grow as humans and professionals.
So
yeah, I love that.
I have a question for you. So my mentor told me today that you are one of the best educators that he's ever seen, which, coming from my mentor, who's one of JB's mentors as well, means the world to us. So I'm not going to stroke your ego on that.
Who's that?
Again, you know him. You mentioned his name earlier. But not really doctor, but Mark Nelson. Mark is really one of my mentors, and he's not even a dentist, but one of the best people I know. But one of the questions that I have for you is that, you know, you mentioned Invisalign, and I think that's really important. And this episode is not sponsored by Invisalign in any means whatsoever, but there's a reason that you believe in Invisalign, and there's a reason that you started with Invisalign. And so I'd really like to know what your thought process is behind that, because I have my own thought process, and I'm sure JB has hers too, but there's reasoning behind that. And if you don't mind sharing that, I'd love to hear it.
About my passion for Invisalign?
Absolutely.
So I'll be honest with you. When I started Invisalign, I graduated dental school. I joined a practice in Manhattan that was successful, and, downtown Manhattan was doing real well. And the owner said to me, how long would it take you to cut a crown? My future partner. And I said, hour and a half over 2 visits. And he's like, well, I can do it in 20 minutes.
It depends on if they have decay or not.
Oh, we don't mess with decay. Anything that crown can cover, we don't need to worry about. Cut off the oxygen supply. Everybody knows that, Chad. So he's like, well, that doesn't make sense. He goes, how long will it is before implants? He's like, how long will it take you to do a bridge? I was like, with study models, 6 weeks solid, I'm sure we can pull it off. And he's like, how long would it take you to do an MO? I'm like, if you want to contact, an hour, no contact, probably 30 minutes. And he was like, what can you do? And I had just taken, this is early 2001. So I had just taken the Invisalign course at like a month or 2 before. And I put my wife at the time, into it, and it was going well. And I said, oh, I could do Invisalign. And he said, really? Oh, I don't know how to do that. I never took the training. I was like, oh yeah, no, I could do Invisalign. Next thing you know, I'm banging Invisalign in Manhattan before anybody else got into it. And that's how it started. Along the way, I realized that some of the things weren't working, and I had to create my own IPR system to make it work well. And then what got me hooked is, like, dentistry is nice and cute, and you might like it or not like it, but nobody ever thanked me for doing a beautiful root canal. I mean, I've done root canals. I have done filling. I have done like fillings where you're like, way deeper than you should be, but I just want to be Mr. Nice Guy. I want to be Mr. Hero. And I'm like high speed, then I'm low speed, and then I'm like scoop, scoop, scoop. And then 45 minutes later, scooping, like, it's all good. But nobody ever thanked me for that. I didn't really change any lives. With Invisalign, I've put plastic into people's mouths, and their lives have literally changed in front of me.
Yeah.
Like they are today different people. I get a few hundred Christmas cards from patients I don't even really remember, being like, that was the impetus that got me the new job that I went back to school for, that I improved my relationship, I got into a better relationship, that I did this, that. It's amazing the effect that a smile has on people. And when you're not happy with your own smile, it degrades your life. And, I'm famous for saying, a quote that I came from the 2015 Invisalign Summit, and it was like, listen, a healthy, perfect smile helps a person to reach their max potential in life. And if I could do it without drilling, without injections, just with plastic in your mouth, it's a big deal. And it's I still practice today, even though I'm busy, because I can't get enough of it. I'm addicted to it. Next week, we're running, some things. I'm planning to start 20 cases in a day. I'm absolutely passionate about it. Once you get hooked on this, Chad, once you get these smiles, these tears in the chair, I mean, all other dentistry becomes meaningless.
Well, let's talk about next week.
Yeah.
It's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
It's your birthday.
Let's think about birthdays for you.
And what do you get for your birthday this year?
All right. So this year, the AACA.
A big present.
Yeah. Okay. I drive to work and I constantly hear the DJ go, hey, everyone, today is National Pancake Day. Hey, everyone, today is National Oreo Cookie Day. Hey, today is Love Your Brother Day. So this happens every day of my life. Every day supposedly has a national day attached to it. So the AACA took this project on with the help of a committee led by a doctor named Christina Blocker, known as the Queen of Invisalign. And they were like, what is involved in making a national Align Your Day? So we started a project about 9 months ago. It's pretty large scale to get it done. It's a huge writer-letting campaign. There's a lot of things you have to file, paperwork. But we convinced the National Archives Society to make a National Align Your Teeth Day, which is next week, August 11th, which is my birthday. That wasn't my choice. One of the committee members thought it was appropriate. I thought 11/11 would have been a better day because then it's like 1/1/1/1 with all teeth straight. But okay. Anyway, it'll be next week, August 11th. And on that day, there are about 450 dental offices across the country that aren't going to do their regular dentistry, fillings, crowns, root canals, dentures, whatnot. And they're just going to dedicate it to helping people start Invisalign, to getting the smiles that they want. There are discounts offered. It's just that one day only. Hopefully you're an office that is in it. Let's kill it. We're planning to start 1,000 Invisalign cases in one day. Imagine that, Chad. 1,000, JB. 1,000 new smiles. 1,000 people will look back and go, August 11, 2021. That's where my life really took a turn. Yeah. It's amazing. Everyone talks about the biggest loser, these people who lose 300-400 pounds and their lives change, their relationships change. We have a chance to do something like that. And it's going to be August 11th. Anybody can do it. Anybody can be on it. AACA member, non-AACA member. If you need help, we have resources. We have mentors. We have templates ready to go. I'm here ready to help anybody, but we're going to start 1,000 cases from GP offices in one day in this country. It's going to be amazing.
With your dynamics, I think you're going to kill 1,000. I think we're
going to crush it.
Well, I can only work out of one office.
Yeah, but I tell you, man, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Imagine 1,000 people remembering August 11th. That was the day that they stopped smoking. They straightened their teeth and they stopped smoking. Yeah. They straightened their teeth. They got a better relationship. They straightened their teeth. A better parent, kid, mother, worker, office manager, whatever. It's amazing. I'm super excited.
Hey, you've got a fan on the show. One of my classmates is referring to you as the Wolf.
Ooh.
What's that all about, big guy?
So the Wolf story. So I practiced for 20 years in downtown Manhattan, 150 Broadway. That's where my office was. And at the time, I was doing the most Invisalign in the country. It's certainly in New York City. GP or ortho, not biggest provider in the country. There were many ortho providers that were bigger, but I was one of the biggest GP providers. And patients would come and, I'd do consults and, I'd be able to just kind of show them the magic of what I could do. Obviously I get paid for it. I'm not going to lie about that. I got paid and it was part of my salary, but I get very passionate about talking people into letting me straighten their teeth and what I can do for them because I've seen it. I know what happens. And people know that. People see me do my consults. People have taped me doing my consults. And around that time, the movie The Wolf of Wall Street had come out with Leonardo DiCaprio. The movie starts off with him at 120 Broadway, which is the building right next door to mine. And if you remember from the movie, again, he was a thief scoundrel, but you got to respect the fact that he can get Chad on the phone and make Chad buy penny stocks for something that, might not be worthwhile. He had a way of communication about him and passion. Again, thief scoundrel, but counting out that part, I kind of picked up the name The Wolf of Invisalign because I was so passionate about driving it and then passionate about educating about it. I speak all around, been on the circus tour for a long time, just trying to get dentists to drink the Kool-Aid, as JB said. That name it's been a while since someone's called me the Wolf, but every now and then you'll hear people say, "Oh, the Wolf of Invisalign walking by."
I love it. My family's, I have a lot of family in Port Washington.
Okay.
And part of that movie was
right there.
Yeah. And my son's going into film. I love the movie. I get the analogy big time. So you are the Wolf of Invisalign. I'll go for that.
Yeah.
So
the nice part, not the cocaine and hooker part, just the nice.
Hey, dude,
the nice part.
The best part was when he was so stoned and he was trying to make the phone call and he had totaled the car. I mean, it was so great. That's like one of the best movies of all time. I could go on and on and on about it, but I'm going to go back to basics here. And I think that there's so much timidness. But I think that we have an opportune time in dentistry because if you think about it, it's not just clear aligners. There's freaking mail order everything. Yeah. Patients can get their night guards. Patients can go straighten their teeth. Patients can go get sleep appliances. Patients can get a balloon to suck their tongue in so that they don't snore. There's so many things that patients can do online. So my question is twofold. The first is, as a young dentist, what's the first step you need to take on your clear aligner pathway? And my second question is how do we prove our validity to these patients in the world that we live in, especially with inflation about to go through the freaking roof?
Yeah, it's good. So if you're a young dentist out there, you have to understand that this game is getting faster and faster and faster. Invisalign, when Invisalign started out, when I started Invisalign, it was like doing Botox now. I don't know, JB, you do Botox, right? Chad, do you do Botox?
Well, we can't do it in our state. You can't do it in North Carolina.
Like if you hear a dentist does Botox, you're like, yeah, that's cute.
No, I don't do any Botox, man. I don't do anything.
Not a giver.
Good for you. Who cares you're doing? When I started Invisalign, people were like, ooh, so fancy. You're a little orthodontist, aren't you? Nowadays, if you are a general dentist in this country, you are expected to understand, to know how to execute an Invisalign case from start to finish. The public does not want orthodontists doing it. They want their regular general dentist to do it. So this has gone from a niche weird thing when I started it in 2001. In 2021, if you're a GP, you better know how to do it. Now, here's the part that relates to the second part. Orthodontics is not easy. It's not. No. People go to school for a really long time to learn how to do it.
That's an engineering degree of dentistry.
It is very complicated to move people's teeth. It's even more complicated to move people's teeth with plastic because, there's a general misconception out there. Just because you don't have to put a bracket on, you don't have to give an injection, you don't have to cut anything. They're like, oh, just take an impression and go. That is not true. Invisalign has a tremendous amount of research and development on it. And the best dentists in this country who provide Invisalign know and understand the science involved because it is not easy to move teeth. Despite what marketing tells you, despite what pop-up company comes up on your Instagram feed and tells you, buy aligners, save the money, no need for dentists. It is not easy. You do need training. You do need to learn how to do it. There are pitfalls all along the way. And listen, if you're a general dentist and you don't know how to put on brackets and wires or hook up a Hooker Schmeitzer appliance, you don't have a plan B. So this thing's got to work.
Yeah.
So, I try and encourage all dentists to get clear aligner trained through Invisalign. I have a program that a lot of people love to go to. I don't want to plug my own programs on your program, but you already said it, so I'll say it.
Do it.
I have a program called the ReEngage program. It is Invisalign, sponsored. It's a 2-day program. We run it nowadays. It used to be hard to get into. You have to know somebody. Nowadays, anybody can get in at any point. Just go on to the AACA website. You can find the course. It's a 2-day hands-on course. I will show you from start to finish how to treat 1,000 or 2,000 cases that you need to know. Without that course, it's really hard to play in this game. A lot of GPs start Invisalign, run aground, get frustrated, and then dump it. It's not impossible. It's not a very complicated thing, but you do have to know some know-how. But if you do and you make that jump, man, the amount of people in this country with crowding and, to your point, Chad, inflation, this thing is getting international travel is cutting down. Like, all people who had vacations planned outside of this country, that just evaporated.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to this hooker thing real quick. Just kidding.
You already started with a testosterone joke. I don't want to be associated with this.
So I'll keep it on track. I would tell you that you solved the biggest problem I saw with Invisalign from early on and you probably experienced it because I was educated a little bit after you, but still I felt like you went to this intro course. They told you how you could take plastic and fix teeth, and then off you went and you were supposed to figure it out, and there were no resources. You couldn't lean on anybody. And then, to your point, if it failed a couple of times or you couldn't get yourself out of situations, you bagged the whole thing. And I think you're absolutely solving a current problem in the clear aligner market to make sure that GPs have a resource, and that when they're having issues that are coming up, that they have a mentor or a colleague or webinar Wednesdays or whatever it is to say, you know what, I'm going to dial in on that because this is a problem I have to solve. And I think that's been a huge adjunct and why those who are in AACA and the study clubs and stuff see that trajectory change because their confidence improves.
And I mean, here's the background on it. It's not that Invisalign dropped the ball on GPs. It's that there's two different organizations within Invisalign.
Correct.
You got orthodontists and then you got GPs.
Yep.
Both have pathways. Both pathways are correct, but they're very different.
Correct.
In Invisalign, years ago when you and I started, JB, it was an orthodontist pathway.
Yep.
An orthodontist put on the clear aligners. They would use them. They would run through it. Something wouldn't work. They'd hook up a Hooker Schmeitzer appliance with a elastic rung and that, throw 6 on, and then you fix it. I don't know how to do that. My backup plan is you're getting all on 4. Like, I don't know what else are we going to do here. I don't know how to
This
do
is a fixed hybrid now. There's no way to solve this problem.
So educationally and format wise, what fits in a GP office was not always there. And that's where a lot of my just luck into it. I'm a system guy. Everything I do has to be a system. I can't function without system. I like to do system A, B, C, and D. When I teach, Chad, as you mentioned, Mark talks about it all the time. People like cookie cutter systems. My lectures aren't just, come, let me show you 6 of my cases, and you can see what a great dentist I am. My lectures are, hey, when I see a case, this is the first thing I do, this is the second thing I do, this is the third thing I do, this is the fourth thing I do on every single case. If I do IPR, I do step 1, then step 2, then step 3, step 4. When I get a clean check back, I do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. When you put the GP style of Invisalign into that framework, it becomes a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And it becomes extremely repeatable, and it becomes very attainable. Here's what I tell everybody. When I do Invisalign cases, and all of my followers, when we do Invisalign cases, it might not be the most perfect orthodontic result AAO standards. Not everyone ends in a class 1 because Invisalign's not great at moving adults into class 1. What it is a better occlusion, stable, better hygiene, better perio, cosmetic, and a happier patient.
Yes.
So, we do Invisalign with the philosophy, maximum efficiency, maximum predictability. And that in a very stepwise, logical way works real well. And we do about 23% of the North America volume is done by a band of 1,500, 2,000 GPs in the country who just understand it better than everyone else.
I'm sold. I'm in on one of your courses. I want to be your next prodigy. I'm in. I love it.
I love it.
I also look forward to seeing you maybe on the other side of the pond in October. And
you think we're gonna go? I don't know.
I hope so.
I
hope so.
I already booked tickets, but it's looking a little dicey.
I haven't booked tickets yet. I need to, but I'm looking forward to visiting with you.
It may require a full spacesuit.
Yeah. I have so many more questions that I want to ask you. You're just a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much.
Hey, David, can we chat a little bit about DIY stuff? Because I think obviously, and actually we had a question from a viewer too who wants to know what procedures in Invisalign you would delegate to your assistants. And I know that's fairly state specific, but I'm sure there's kind of a broad scope of things. And then if you want to address that, and then we can get a little bit into DIY, because I think that question's multifaceted. Number one, how is that playing in the market? We could talk a little bit about Patterson and kind of that whole thing that went down. But two, I think communication techniques for practitioners to be able to handle those questions when patients sit down and say, well, I mean, I can do it with a particular company, and now there's like 10 of them for $1,500, $1,800, $2,200, whatever it is, and you want to charge X amount. How do you justify that? And so I think there's a lot of communication finesse that comes with those particular conversations. So really long question, delegated assistance, DIY, maybe Patterson a little bit, and then communication techniques.
Thanks for compartmentalizing that.
Did you like that?
That's a system. That's a quiz, bro.
That's what we call a run-on sentence in Texas.
So, delegating to assistants. So it's a very popular topic because it's very sexy to say, oh, I don't see my Invisalign patients 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Your orthodontic normal practice, for an orthodontist, they got a bay of 7 chairs and the orthodontist just goes, yeah. And the girls do everything. I don't mean that term Mad Men like, but the assistants do everything. In my office, I'll have the assistants do insert number 1. They do the scanning of all the patients. But after that, I kind of do everything. I like to do the consults. I like to place my own attachments, even if you're in a state where they allow it, unless you have an EFTA. Some people have these expanded function dental assistants who are better than me at like making temporary crowns. If you have one of those, good. But your normal dental assistant, placing attachments, I think you're making a mistake. The biggest plague for Invisalign cases that I see is this thing that we call refinement rate, which means you finish the Invisalign trays, 15, and the teeth are not straight. So you got to do it again. Take a new scan, new impression, new attachments, new clean check. It is an absolute killer of chair time, patient energy, and everything. I love a system where I keep that refinement rate sub 20%, which is a high in the country and has been for a long time. And what people miss is the way. It's not that I'm some genius, although there is some brilliance. No, I just monitor the case all the way through. So I put on all the attachments to make sure they're perfect. I see the patients every time they come in to make sure that the trays are tracking. If they're not tracking, I start to troubleshoot right there. Why is this tooth not moving? Let me figure it out. My regular assistants, when they do that job, if the trays snap in, they snap in. But you have to understand there's a difference between trays snapping in and the difference of a 2 to 3 millimeter space between the top of the tooth and the Invisalign, albeit snaps in. If there's a space between the top of the tooth and the Invisalign, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. The tooth is not where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. Now, if they fit in, patient's happy, they leave. They come back, but they come back 6 weeks later, and now you're out of the game. Now you got to restart the whole thing. Yeah. Your practice, this is the most profitable procedure in the world if you can get in and out of these cases in 20 aligners. In and out 20 aligners, 5-6 months, don't leave a mark. And I mean, this is the most, your reputation will precede you. Because if you call a regular orthodontist office, and I'm not knocking orthodontists, but you ask them, you cold call and be like, how long is Invisalign? They will say 18 to 24 months. That's what they do. Put it on, works a little bit, then you put it on again, works a little bit, throw an arch wire on, a little bit more. The GPs in this country who can get in and out of the cases in 5-6 months, it's the real deal. So as a very long-winded answer to your delegation, I'm not big in delegating. Insert ones, things like that, problem shooting, things like that, yeah. Delivering retainers, maybe, yeah. But the rest of it, attachments, checks, I do that. So I'm not a big fan of delegating too much of it, unless you're working in conjunction and reporting back and you're going in to check it. In terms of the DIY, it's been around for a long time. I actually think it's dying out a little bit. I actually think Invisalign is actually gaining momentum on these DIY. I think the DIYs have seen their best days. DIY stands for do-it-yourself orthodontics, basically marketing companies that say, hey, you don't need a dentist. Just send us some impression of your mouth or go to a scan shop and we will send you back clear aligners. You will treat orthodontics yourself. And what people don't understand, well, what I tell my patients, I'm like, listen, this is really hard to do. People go to school for a really long time to learn how to do this. My whole career is teaching dentists how to make sure Invisalign goes well. These are dentists, people who understand the difference between a primo and a molar and a cuspid. And you think Joe Blow patient is going to, I mean, the stories of what happens to people who jump into do-it-yourself plastic without orthodontic diagnosis, without exam, without an understanding of the periodontium and what movements they're doing and how, and without IPR, it's like every dentist I meet says, oh yeah, I had a patient come in, they're going to lose a tooth. Oh yeah, they have a posterior open bite. Yeah, they did this, you know, they did this company, that company. When I have a patient in my chair, I say, listen, JB, you can buy from Home Depot every single thing that you need to make your own roof. 100%. From the tar to the shingles to the base to the sealer, and you can watch YouTube videos of every single part of that procedure, the wood to the plank to the shingle to the tar. You could watch the whole thing, you could buy everything, and you could watch it all, and you could do it at home. But would you make your own roof?
Right.
No, you would not. You would not. It would rain on your family, possibly collapse on them.
Right.
It takes a certain amount of expertise. Orthodontics is the same way. And the most important thing I stress, you know, to my patients and to my doctors is you have to look the patient in the eye and just say, listen, this is not like a weight loss program, pill, shake, diet that you're going to try. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. It's worth, you get what you pay for. I'm willing to try it. If this doesn't work, your back teeth won't touch for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, because there's no IPR and the teeth are crowded, the only game they have is just push them out. I could push your teeth out all the way out, and eventually they'll get straight.
They'll get straight.
Push them way past where the alveolar ridge is. You're going to receive recession and a dehiscence and mobility, and then it's going to turn dark, and then it's going to fall out. I mean, any patient can go onto the Better Business Bureau and look at the complaints for DIY orthodontics and see all the local news stories about it. And just be an educated pursuit. But it's not like it'll work, don't work, I'll try my best, I'll see what happens. If this doesn't go well, you won't chew again. And when I say it like that to patients and doctors, I think hopefully I reach them.
It's such an interesting dynamic because, you know, the free market and FTC is all about making sure there's no monopolies and everybody's getting a fair shake. And yet there's the protection of public health and, you know, knowing that certain things have an increased level of liability. And I think hopefully this will continue to get some investigation and that the public health, for lack of their own intelligence on the subject matter, will get, you know, semi-protected, because that's what the state boards are supposed to be there for. That's what they're supposed to do for the public health. This is so far outside of their boundary of what they can really do for the citizens of their state to say, hey, this is not complying with rules and regs of what we know to be good dentistry. So
it hasn't worked so far.
Yeah, I know.
State boards have let us down, or they've been beaten in court. They don't have good. I don't know why. They have Alabama and Georgia both just lost.
I saw that. That was in my news actually 2 weeks ago, because that was big news. And you know, North Carolina's had its own battles with FTC issues. It doesn't go well for states when they try to go up against larger corporations and the
billion-dollar corporations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a hard go, but we can't worry about that. We just have to go grassroots to the dentist. We have to go grassroots to the patients. We just have to inform people about this. Orthodontics has to be doctor-led. It has to be doctor-based. Doctors have to be trained well. Orthodontics is not easy. Clear aligner movements are not easy. It doesn't just happen automatically. There's a lot to it and a lot that can go wrong. And when it goes wrong, it could really be problematic for patients.
The other interesting thing that I saw recently is how clear aligner companies are now going after GP, like the DIYs. There are certain niche DIY groups that are specifically sort of led by orthodontists or sort of being managed by orthodontists. And they're directly going after GPs as well and saying, well, don't do DIY, but don't do GP led and, clear aligner therapy either. So it's such a multifaceted economy of the different players that are trying to establish a foothold within what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a huge market. This is an easily a $50 billion market globally. And with that brings a lot of people. And I think we're over the you don't need any dentist. I mean, I think at least the DIYs are like, oh, well, let's get some dentists involved in it. Right. At least at the beginning, go to a dentist, get involved. And, that's what happened a couple of weeks ago where, DIY companies are reaching out to dentists saying, can you please prescribe my DIY to your patients? And I think, listen, there's always going to be a dentist who signs up, always. You could have a cleaning that's $6 and you'll get 10 dentists go, okay, I'll try it. Yeah, you're only paying $6, $5. Okay, $5. Final offer.
Done.
I'll do it. Yeah. Oh, no, I'll take it. But I think the education is spreading in dentistry, and I think a lot of dentists are very wary about taking on things that don't smell right, or will leave them in a bit of a hole with patients. Orthodontics is an amazing adjunct to your practice. Clear aligners will change your life and give you real purpose. If you're, my best students are late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s. They're like, I've done it all, seen it all. I'm looking for something that's exciting. It's going to change people's lives in my practice. Give me a dentist 35 to 50, has an established practice, has an established, work thing, and wants to learn Invisalign and wants to change people's lives and get excited about it and do cool stuff. Unlimited potential.
You know what? That's awesome. And I think that's, since we're coming to a close, that's
you've left him speechless.
But
can you feel it?
No,
Dink.
You said something early.
Dink. That should be like you're closing your thing. Dink. We dinked you.
We did dink you, but you first of all, you included me in that category because I am sub 50, over 35, over 40. JB laughs all the time, but she's not that much younger than me. I just want everybody to know that. She just colors her hair. But one of the things that you said earlier, and we need to go macro versus micro, because you said people get stuck in Invisalign. They do a few cases, they get frustrated, and they say, screw it. You know what? If that was our livelihood, would we say screw it? No, we would better ourselves, right? Because that's what we do in general dentistry. If we sucked at fillings and we said screw it, you probably wouldn't have much of a practice to hang your shingle on if you didn't have anything beyond fillings. Mm-mm. So really, when you feel that you suck at it, seek help. Seek Dr. Galler's course. Become a whatever you Galleriite or whatever.
Gallerite.
No, yeah, all the Galleriite. I said it earlier and I totally forgot it. But I like Galilee. I mean, you have Galileite, Galatian, Gallerite. But no, thank you so much. You said so many great things, and I think that people who are stuck in a rut look towards what he's doing with Invisalign. I'm sold. I'm in. Can't wait to
I could change your career. I could absolutely change your career.
Man, 100%. I need to change something.
Happier, more revenue, more fun. Just really just enjoying what you used to do. If just getting back to something that people cry in the chair. It's weird. People cry from happiness in the chair, and that's not something I experienced in my previous life, filling veneers, cosmetic Manhattan practice. So yeah, everything is doable. Everything is doable. Everything is teachable. I have the keys. I have all the answers. And I'd love the chance to teach you, Chad, and anybody else GP wise who wants to learn Invisalign for reals.
I'm in, man, for reals. Hey,
Love it.
thanks, David. Really,
guys.
really appreciate your time.
You were awesome.
Home. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm in Miami now, but I'll be back in Raleigh next week.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Take care, guys.
See you soon, David. Thank you so much. Hey, JB, for once you didn't screw up. You got a great guest.
No,
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. If there's any of JB's other guests, JB always has fantastic guests. We always have fantastic guests. We have fun, but that was energizing, and that's what I needed. I mean, perfect timing. I mean, look at our energy. I mean, let's face it. Last week we were all on vacation. We decided not to have a show.
Yeah,
that was the perfect show to come back to. Lots of engagement, lots of questions that we didn't even get to. So thank you so much, Dr. Galler. That was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate him coming on tonight. And, I would strongly urge you to look at the AACA, to look for a local Galler study club in your area. Just get connected with other folks who are doing it and doing it well. I'm telling you, it brings you passion and it gets you energized to do it. And you know what? No one's breaking their back or having to have neck surgery because they were too successful at Invisalign.
Well, I agree. And I really like the step-by-step. This is what I do for this. This is what I do for ClinChecks. This is what I do for IPR. And that's really important because, to so many of us, myself in the beginning, IPR, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, that's 1 swipe, 2 swipes, 3 swipes, 4 swipes. I mean, it's like, it's very hard to gauge. So those are the systems that we need. That's the confidence that we need, looking at these cases. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Next year, we'll just do a Dinks at AACA's annual conference. Opening night, they have a comedy show, which I heard was pretty phenomenal, actually. And Galler did stand-up comedy as well. So I'm just saying, there could be an on location in Vegas next year for AACA.
Hey, yeah, there you go, man. I mean, and when my son goes to film school, he can maybe pursue his comedic career at the AACA convention.
Get a start. That's the color of it.
Yeah. So, hey, great show. Anything else you want to say?
Do you want to talk about next week or, anything?
Next week, we're going to have our good friends from Shofu on.
Yeah.
We have a doctor out of Southern California, Dr. Atai, that's going to speak actually maybe a little bit on clear aligner therapy as well. And then we're going to have a little bit talking about maybe some new composites and veneering with composites from our friends at Shofu, which if you aren't a fan of Shofu composites, it's bioactive, it's fantastic, it's good stuff. So it's a lot of learning, a lot of good stuff. Let's just carry on, my wayward son.
I love it. And hopefully
I'd like to have maybe a little bit of news. I know this is maybe overkill, but let's follow what's going on with COVID over the next week and maybe talk a little bit about COVID and maybe some updates on the vaccine or something if we have something.
You got it. I'll keep looking. And also, if you guys come across weird, like I posted that one with the tongue lesion, and I think we have pretty much locked it into the etiology being the vaccine at this point. And it's not self-resolving. And so this is a continual case that we're tracking. Those things are really great to share so that we can continue to learn from one another, because that's how we provide the best care. And to say, now on my differential list of questions is, have you received the vaccine and how long ago was it, when we see weird presentations of oral lesions. So just
I love it.
Stuff to think about. Have a great night, guys.
Everybody, thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.